you available in the lab shared drives. So if you go into, I think from this lab, you have the lab 833 shortcut in your desktop. So if you go and look inside that drive, you would see a folder called GIS exercise and data. So if you look at it inside it, the one that says in-class tutorial is what I'm going to show you right now. The one that says interface GIS is just a one-pager thing that will show you what the interface and menus look like in GIS, which I will show you as well.
Take a moment to locate that file right now, guys.
And then the knowledge base documents that says general are not tutorials. They're not written based on a specific example, but they're written based on specific concepts. So it tells you what a shapefile is, it tells you what the available data sets are, it tells you how to do visual data attributes. So they're also pretty good to read. Again, they're not file-specific examples. The one that we're going to do today in class tutorials is a file-specific example. So if you want to do it in your own time as well, or if you have questions regarding it, you need to copy the one that says in-class tutorial teams. Because in order to do the tutorial, you would need the files, right? Okay. And then we also have another folder that's called GIS data for 1291 assignment. This is a data that we developed for downtown Brooklyn and downtown Manhattan. So I'm not going to show you anything of that today, but basically it's more or less the same data that we're going to see today, but it has more layers. Today I'm just going to present you 4 or 5 different data. I think the 1291 assignment data has more than 20 or 25 files with different attributes. So if you are going to follow me, what I want you to do is find this folder and copy in-class tutorial teams, that subfolder, into your desktop.
You guys are all finding that?
And let me know if you can.
So the link, the location again?
It's under Lab 833 shared drive. I think in your desktop you need to have a shortcut to Lab 833.
Check on the desktop. 833, right?
Yeah. It will be available in all labs, just to let you know, by the way. So if you're in 834 or 811 or in any other classroom, we actually put all that folder and all those files into all the shared folders.
And then you copy the in-class tutorial?
Yeah, the one that says in-class tutorial teams. Copy the entire folder to your desktop.
So in-class tutorial doc. Teams. Okay, good. Okay, good.
Did everybody copied it?
Yeah.
And again, the Word file that says in-class tutorial is the step-by-step guide of what I'm going to show you today. All right, so if you're ready, go to your Start menu, All Programs, and find a program folder that says ArcGIS. So it's on screen. And if you look at it, ArcGIS is a software suite just like Adobe Creative Suite, right?
Right.
You have Photoshop, Illustrator, and other programs. And in ArcGIS, you have ArcCatalog, Administrator, ArcGlobe, ArcMap, ArcScene, and a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
So what I want you to do is, if you're going to follow me, click the ArcMap 10.1. So it's again after your Start menu, you go to ArcGIS folder and then find ArcMap 10.1. And then just click it to start running. Now, this is an expensive piece of software. So I think licensing it costs almost close to like $7-8 grand. But the school has a special relationship with the software vendor. So every student and faculty in the class are eligible for a full 1-year license. And as long as you keep your student ID, you can renew it every year. So let your professor know if you want to explore this further. There's a 60-day trial from the web that you can download, but we could provide you with serial numbers if you want to install it into your own PC.
Okay.
The trick is it's a Windows-based program. So if you use a Mac, you need to use something like Dual Boot or Parallels. Yeah.
What's the program called again?
ArcGIS. And then under ArcGIS, you need to click ArcMap 10.1. Any questions? And if you download it from the web to your own computer at home, please download the same version that you use at school. It's 10.1, because right now they have an updated version that's also available on the web to download, which is 10.2. Physically, the software looked the same, but our trial licenses, the licenses we're going to give you for a year, are for 10.1. So try to install 10.1, okay? So, yeah.
Is ArcGlobe and ArcMap the same?
No, ArcGlobe is actually almost an identical thing to Google Earth, that you can look at the data in a globe rather than a specific map. Okay, so the moment you click ArcGIS, it will take a couple of seconds the program to run. You will see more or less a screen like this. So it will ask you if you want to create a new map file, and it will show you a blank template, which is okay.
Did all of you guys open ArcGIS?
Yeah. It's under Start, All Programs, and then under All Programs, find the folder called ArcGIS, and then ArcMap 10.1. Do you need me? Anybody who can't open it? Yeah? Okay, so if everyone is ready, just say okay to this and just start with a blank template.
Okay.
And then more or less you would see a screen like this. Now, so what is this screen? So this is the basic interface of ArcMap. The big white window that you see that doesn't have anything in the center is called your map window. So it's almost like your drawing window in AutoCAD. It's where more or less everything happens. The white space on your left that says table of contents is your layers. If you ever used Photoshop or Illustrator, you might be familiar with the layers, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same logic. Whenever we load a data onto this map, we would see the layer name displayed in there. And it works the same way with the Adobe software. You know, the high up layers would have the visibility. So if something is over another layer, the top layer would be visible. Anything that's underneath it would not be visible unless it's transparent. So it works the same way. And then these are called pull-down menus, as in all softwares. And then you can enable or disable additional menu bars by right-clicking to the gray area in here. And don't get frustrated when it shows up, but it will have a lot of different menu bars, as you can see. Now, we will show you very basics of them. Again, don't be frustrated when you get lost in the software. I use this software for more than 10 years, and I still do Google search when I can't find my way out, because it's not a single-use software. It's used, as you saw in the PowerPoint, it's used for a lot of sectors, a lot of different things. So there are a lot of menus and commands that you may never use your entire life, but they're still there for other people to use. So it's okay to get lost in it, okay? And whenever you get lost, ask me the question today. All right, so we should remember one thing before we start. ArcGIS is not a super user-friendly software, and it's not super stable. So save often and work very organized. The reason I say work very organized is because ArcGIS saves files, but it works with an external reference logic. Are everybody familiar with external references in CAD? Do you need me to explain it?
You guys understand extracts when you're talking about?
So ArcGIS file is a map, and when it saves my desk. just like this. But it doesn't save individual elements in the desk. It just saves where they are and how they look to me. That's it. So basically, when we have data inside this map, when we save the file, it won't save the data. It will just save where the data is located in your hard drive and how you display it on your screen. So that's why I wanted you to copy that entire folder to your drive. So what you need to do when you work with GIS is create yourself a folder in a place that you're comfortable with. It could be your C drive, your desktop, your memory drive, your USB or external drive, anywhere. But keep everything under one big folder and then categorize everything underneath it with subfolders. Work very organized, right? So don't keep your GIS file on your desktop when your data is on your memory stick and then you have another data that you get from the web saved under your downloads folder. When you save and move your file, when you open it on a new computer, you won't see anything. Because again, it's not smart to understand where each of those files are and sort of compile them in one giant file, but it will just keep where those files are as paths. So that's why I said it's external reference. And is there a way to bind them into the map? No. So in short way, you can't really say, save everything in this one giant file, so I move everything with one file. It doesn't do that. So that's why work in a folder, each time you need to copy, just zip the folder, or email the whole folder to yourself, or copy the whole folder to your drive. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So there are two ways to add data to this map right now. It's a blank, empty map. So do you have a question? Okay. So let's start doing it. The first way, and the easiest way, is to use this plus sign icon that says add data when you mouse over. The second way, just to show you, is to go through a file menu and then say add data. They're basically the same thing. One of them is the shortcut on the pull-down menu bars. The other one goes through file, add data, whichever one you prefer. So I'll just go to the add data right now. And the moment I click it, you would see a weird menu that doesn't show any of your Windows drives or folders that you're familiar with. It says Home, Documents, ArcGIS, Add-ins, Default, Toolbox. The reason is GIS is a database software. Now, up until this time, you may not have heard or worked with a database software anymore. Does anyone have any experience with a database? Or know what an actual database is? So, a database is basically a pool of files or data that, the computer query for it, right? So usually Microsoft creates these database, programmers use it. You don't need to know any level of programming. I don't know any computer programming, but GIS works on a database logic. But there is a way to switch that and convert it into a Windows logic. Just bear with me and now watch what I'm doing and then do it yourself, okay? So the first thing we need to do right now is to connect the computer to our hard drive. Because right now it's looking into a database and the database is empty. So what we're going to do is go to our desktop and then find the folder that I just copied onto my desktop that says in-class tutorial teams, right? And then what I need to do is, when I'm inside the folder, what I need to do is I right-click the folder name and say copy address as text, okay? And then I will go back to the GIS, and then once I'm inside this add data menu, I will go and click this icon that has a small plus and a folder that says connect to a folder. I'll click that, and then now it will show me what available Windows drives I have, right? So now I can either go and paste my folder into here, or if it would be easier for you, you can just navigate to your desktop and find that folder that we copied into our desktop and just mark it. So if I highlight it and say OK, now it shows me the contents of that folder. What we basically did is we connected the folder into ArcGIS's database menu. Now, does it make sense? Any questions?
Can you?
Okay, so now I'm showing you how to do it from scratch.
Yeah.
You go to add data, and then all you see is something like this, right? You go to this small icon that says connect to folder. It's basically a folder with a plus sign on it, right? Click that, and then it will show you the Windows drives. And then just select the folder you want to connect, you want to work, right? You can, it's basically mapping out a drive for you. You can mark the entire C drive, you can mark a specific folder, you can mark desktop, you can mark anywhere, and you can mark more than one folders. And you only need to do this once in your own computer. Because each time you open ArcGIS, it will remember the folders. But you need to do this all the time in the labs, because every night these computers are wiped out. So it won't remember your folders next morning, right? So learn this. You don't need to do it on your own computer, but you need to do it in here every time, right?
Are you guys clear about this?
So
You have to just kind of stay in tune with what he's doing, because otherwise you're not going to get this. And it's better to just listen and then do the tutorial on your own. That's what I would suggest if you can't follow, because he only has an hour left.
And these things are all available in the tutorial, like it explains you, yes.
So if you connect your ArcGIS software to the C that has all the information of your computer,
that will be
no worry.
sufficient. The benefit of connecting directly to the folder is each time you want to add something, you go drive C, and then project folders, and then blah blah project, and then GIS. If you want to save yourself 5 clicks, just go and connect to the directly folder you're working with.
Okay.
But the best is, like you said, the best is usually to connect it to C, to My Documents, to desktop, to multiple places, so you have a selection of folders, right? And then if you need to go to a custom place, you can always go through C, program files, whatever it is you're looking for.
Okay.
But it will be handy. Think it as your desktop, right? Your desktop has an access to your C drive, but you can create shortcuts to specific locations on the C drive.
Right.
So this is GIS's desktop, right? Okay, so if you connect to your specific folder, what will happen is that you can switch this arrow, and from the home, you can switch to folder connections. And each time you add a folder, you would see the folder connections listed underneath it. So this time I just added my desktop in class tutorial teams. So I click that, and I have a folder called teams. So I'll double click the teams. Okay, now I see shapefiles. Remember I told you the GIS file is called shapefiles, and the abbreviation for shapefiles is SHP. So I see buildings, elevation all, open space, parcel, pavement, roads, street center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose buildings and say add. Okay, so I have some buildings that are visible on the map screen, which doesn't really mean anything right now, but I see something. And as you can see in your layers now, I have a layer called buildings, right? It has a tick on it, and it's displayed with green in my screen. It might be other colors in your screen or the same. Now, this is a shapefile, and remember shapefile had components, so what we see in the map window is the vector component, meaning I can zoom into the file, and it will be blurry once I'm zooming in, but then it will be crystal crisp. So this is almost like a CAD file. It's made out of geometries, right? I can zoom in and out indefinitely, and my visual quality won't change. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go and click the add data again, and then add the rest of the data. So we just added buildings. Now I'm going to add elevation, open space, parcel, and what you can do is you can multiple select them, either by crossing window like this, or you can select the first one and then hold shift and then select the last one, so it will add everything at once. So you don't need to add files one by one. If you have multiple files in one location, you can load everything at once. Now, it's a mess. I see a bunch of stuff. So remember I told you on the left that these are layers, and the layer order works according to how you see them listed in there. So in my case, because I loaded buildings first, I don't see the buildings anymore. They're obstructed with parcels. So what I do is I hold down the click on buildings and move it up in front of parcels. So now at least I see parcels and I see buildings as well, right? So you can mix and match, like drag layers up and down depending on how you want the visibility to be. All right, so we have basic shapefiles that are loaded right now. Anybody has a question? So we have different kinds of shapefiles. As you can see on the left, some things are represented. For example, the elevation all is represented with a point. The pavement and street center line are represented with lines, and open space and the rest are represented with rectangles, right? On the layers, maybe. So these are different kinds of shape files. So a shape file could be what? Could be point, could be polyline, or could be polygon, right? So there are three basic types of shape files that you would be working in GIS world. So point shape files, polyline shape files, polygon shape files. Now, why do we have different kinds of shape files? Because of the nature of the data they represent, right? So some things are good to represent as a point. Like, can you represent the location of trees with rectangles? You can. I mean, you can put a small rectangle into every tree location, but it will be overkill because the location of tree has a specific coordinate, right? In world surface, the tree exists only in one place. Like where the trunk sits the ground, it has an X coordinate, it has a Y coordinate, and it has a Z coordinate. But a building outline is actually millions of points coming together to form a shape, right? So that's why it's represented with a polygon. A road is basically a boundary, so it could be represented with a polyline. Any questions? Okay, so these are the three basic types of shapefiles, right? So now let's look at into, we see the vector versions of shapefiles anyway, so let's see what is beyond the vectors. So what I'm going to do is, except buildings, I'm going to turn off everything. So if you take the tick out, you're basically turning off the layer. You're not deleting them, it's still part of your map, but you're just turning the visibility off. And I just have the buildings now. So if I highlight the buildings and right-click the layer name, I would see a new set of tools that will pop up, right? So what I want you to do is, if you're following me, go and click Open Attribute Table. So this is the information that we don't see visually. So I open the attribute table, it says table. I'll just move it around and make it larger so you can see it on the screen. So I have a small table that tells me there's an FID, I don't know what the hell that is. There is shape, there is object ID, BIN, shape length, shaped area. Okay, so buildings have a relatively small attribute table in this case, but it has some data. I know the shape length, I know the shape area, I know there's something called BIN, there's an object ID, there's shape, there's an FID. Now, FID would exist in every GIS database. It's not a data that you need to know, it's the unique number of shapes in GIS world. It just creates it for the computer to understand it. It's almost like the social security number of each geometry in your GIS map. So it's not a real number of any city agency that assigns, but it's a number the computer assigns so it could track what shape it is, right? So FID would exist in all shape files. You don't need to worry about it. The only thing that deals with it is that it needs to be unique. Like within the same file, if the FID1 refers to this, 2 refers to this, 2 can never refer to this, because it's the unique identification number. The shape is basically the type of shape it is. All the buildings are polygons, so everything is polygon, which is fine. The object ID is something probably the DOB, Department of Buildings, who releases this layer, assigned to it. They want to track it as well. And then there's a BIN, which I know because I work with DOB, that means building identification number. It's the specific number for each building in the city that's given by DOB to track the things. And then I have shape length and shape area. Okay, so I don't really have too much information, but I have some information about it. So I'll close the shapefiles table, and then what I will do is I will turn this one off as well, and I will turn on the parcels. Okay, so remember I told you the parcels are created by Department of Tax.
Yeah.
So because of the tax purposes, the parcels would likely to have more information, because again, the government, the city government needs to know what is inside that parcel to adequately tax you, right? So what I'm going to do is right-click and open the attribute table for it. Now I'm talking about an attribute table. As you can see, it is a very long table with a lot of fields and with a lot of data that I don't understand anything out of it because it's written in a weird language, right? So the first kind of sets, again, FID, shape, object ID, common in all of them. But we have borrow, we have block, we have lots, we have CD, which stands for census districts. We have census tracts, we have school districts, councils, zip code. We have the fire company that's assigned to, we have addresses, we have zoning districts, we have multiple zoning districts actually. We have building classification, land use, we even have owner names. So this is a lot of data, right? A lot of data to understand and to digest. So this is what a real attribute table would look like. Now, building class, land use, easements, there are all these terms that I have no idea about what it is. I know land use what it is, but it says land use 02, 01, 10, 05. I have no idea about how to decode this. Now, do you guys remember I told you a very important file underneath shapefiles when I described you the shapefiles? Do you guys remember that? We need metadata to understand this, right? Remember I told you every file comes with a metadata. The buildings was easy to understand because it's a building outline, area, length, and then there was just a BIM number. If you're familiar with New York City, you would know the building identification number. But you can't be this familiar with New York City about knowing what a A5 building classification means. It obviously means something, right? It might be concrete building with elevator, whatever it is. But it means something. So now I need like a decoder to understand this table. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, keep it on the header. We're gonna go back to that. But so this is a big shapefile. And one thing that I can directly see within this attribute table is that if you look at down underneath, it will tell you how many total fields in the attribute table and how many total elements in the attribute table are. So it says 0 out of 1,149 selected. So it means on my map there is 1,149 parcels visible. Does it make sense? Okay, so I'm going to turn this off for a second and then zoom out. All right, so I have the parcels. Let me turn on the buildings. Let me turn on the open spaces. And then what I'll do is I will try to assign different colors. So let's try to make it very quick and, just a dumb map that doesn't really show anything, but let's just try to format all this information quickly. So I just turned on open space, buildings, and parcels. What I want to do is I want to change colors so teams look at it in an understandable way. Right now, my open spaces are sort of like this weird color. So what I will do first is click this rectangle that sort of like icons this open space. Just click it once, and then it will take you to a symbol selector. So in here, you can assign a nice green to the open spaces, whatever you like. You can change the outline. If you want, you can make it without an outline. You can change the outline color, and you could always customize things. If you go to the edit symbol, I'm not going to go into deep, but you can create line fills, hatches, gradients, or you can put picture fills inside it. So this is almost like, if you're a little familiar with Illustrator or Photoshop, this is almost like how to fill the shape. And you can fill the shape with different options. So for now, I'm just going to assign it a basic green. Okay, so at least the map started to look like a real map with the parks green. And then I'll just go and double click the buildings, and I will click the buildings. I will make that maybe sort of like a bright yellow. And then I will go and make my parcels sort of like gray, maybe. Okay, so it just shows a very basic map, right? Now, we can see all this thing. Okay, this map looks nice, and it might look, super cool if we add more information to it. We can look at entire Manhattan, entire Brooklyn, but what does it tell you? It doesn't really tell us anything. It just almost looks like a base map, like the Google Maps. Now, what is available in GIS is that since there is an attribute table, we can create selections and we can show information based on those selections. Remember I told you GIS works, it's almost like you ask questions, the software would answer. Now is the time for you to ask questions, because you can look at this information endlessly, but it won't tell you a story.